What up guys, John from Wheel here, and we are going to be installing a new radio, new application. What is that for? That is a 2016 to 2023 Toyota Tacoma. It's been asked for, we finally got it. We're going to put a 13-inch screen in this truck. That's what we're doing today. So what do you say we get at it? All right guys, that's right. We got ourselves a Tacoma. We're gonna put in our 13-inch radio, and I'm gonna be real honest with you, probably my favorite looking radio thus far. Just the fit and finish is gorgeous, screen is gorgeous, but let's say we get going. So quick, easy install on this one. I promise you it's super easy. So if you've got this Tacoma, you're gonna snap this panel off here. This is all clipped, super easy, gonna pop off, and then you're gonna pull off the climate control panel here. Now this is all gonna look different depending on how your truck is equipped. Whether you've got the dual climate like this one does, single climate, doesn't matter. Whether you're push start, whether you're 4-wheel drive, doesn't matter. Our radio will actually come with 2 blanks. So if you don't have 4-wheel drive or you don't have a push to start, not a big deal. We've got blanks for you. If you do, you're just gonna swap these buttons over. But it's gonna be as simple as popping these 2 panels off, and then the radio is gonna have 4 10 millimeter bolts. We'll pull out that radio, and then we'll talk about all the harnesses that plug into each other. Real quick and easy, run a microphone, and that's pretty much gonna be the gist of it, guys. It's gonna go in quick and easy. So what do you say I grab some tools real quick, pull this dash apart, and get going. All right, just like that, guys, we got the radio out. So let's talk about a couple pieces that you're gonna move over. We'll talk about the harnesses, and then we will plug it all in. So again, depending on which climate control panel you have, whether you're push to start and whether you're 4-wheel drive, this panel here is just gonna snap out. You're gonna turn it around, and you should be able to see on the back of these buttons, there's gonna be clips on the top and bottom of both of those. So you're just gonna push those clips in, and then you'll push the switch right out the front of it, super easy, so that you can move those over into our dash bezel. Let me get this one out here before I forget to. There we go. So those are out and we're ready. So now we're gonna talk about some harnesses so we know what is happening. So you should have this big mess of harnesses. Now, depending on what year Tacoma you have will depend on what your power harness looks like. And in our kit, you'll see that there's actually gonna be 2 different power harnesses. You're gonna use one of them. You won't use both of them. Bear with me here. So we've got this guy here. This is gonna be your older, I believe it's 16 to maybe 18 harness. So if your plugs don't look like that, guess what? You're not gonna use it. Now maybe your plugs look like this, and you're gonna use this one. So this is gonna give all of our CAN bus information, our power, our ground, our speakers, all of that stuff. So these harnesses here, we're gonna match them up with our adapter. Now let me say this for all of my Toyota loving folks. If you look in here, these pins are really long and very small. And thin. So you want to be careful when you hold this and you plug it in, because if you're squeezing too hard here, what you're actually doing inside the plug is you're bending the pin, and then the pin's actually not going to line up where it needs to on the correct plug. So you're going to want to be careful when you plug those in to not bend those or hold those in a way that's going to make them want to plug in the wrong way. So we'll go ahead, we'll get those guys plugged in, and then you should have a nice, there we go, a factory USB. So this is going to retain your factory USB ports down here. It's going to do most things. I'll tell you this, anytime you're using a phone and you're trying to get a phone to communicate to something, there's a lot of handshake stuff that's going to matter depending on whether or not you know what the voltage is, resistance and all that. So there's a good chance that if you're trying to do anything with a phone, that USB will not work, but you'll be able to do all the other USB sticks and drives and stuff like that. So those will all work. And then you've got the plugs down here that came from your climate control. And depending again on what AC you have, you should have gotten 2 of these plugs here. So these are the 2 different AC plugs. So if you had dual climate, then you're going to use the one that obviously says for the one that has the automatic climate. And then if you don't, you'll use the one that says manual climate. So these are gonna plug into the plugs that came from your factory climate controls, and then they'll plug into the radio. Note, if you have audio, or sorry, not audio, if you have auto, you're gonna have one extra plug here that's gonna have to go into the harness on the radio. So just pay attention to that. If you don't, you won't need that one. But let's talk a couple of our harnesses now that we've talked about factory ones. So we've got our yellow plug here. This is gonna have all of our RCA pre-outs. So if you're running any kind of aftermarket amplifiers, this is where you're going to plug in your aftermarket amplifiers. If you're not running aftermarket amplifiers, you still need this plug because this is where the microphone plugs into. So for us, we're gonna put the microphone up here on the A pillar. You can put it kind of wherever you want to. No, we cannot retain your factory one. Long story, but we can't. So just know we can't. You're gonna have to run our microphone and you're gonna want it as far away from noise. So wind, stuff like that, you don't wanna mount it that way. But that's our RCA and microphone plug. And we've got this nice purple one here. This is for your toss link. So those of you guys who are doing some high-end audio where you've got a DSP where you want a straight digital signal, that's gonna be this plug here. That's where you're gonna plug in your toss link plug. We've got our blue antenna plug. So this is the navigation antenna or the satellite antenna essentially. So let me say this, even if you're not going to be using one of our built-in navigations like iGo or something like that, and you're gonna use CarPlay, you're still gonna need this because CarPlay is going to use the location of the radio to help find itself. So you're gonna have to install this. Either way you cut it, so don't not install it. This can go inside the dash. You just wanna make sure it doesn't go under metal. So for us, really easy spot is a lot of times here up on the air vent, or you can kind of get up here on top of the air vent. So you have the least amount of things on top of it will make it work the best. So for us, we'll probably mount it right there, super easy. And then you should have 3 of these nice flat antennas. 2 of them will have this purple plug on the end of it, and then 1 of them will have a screw plug on the end of it. So the 2 with the purple plugs are actually for 4G. So our Generation 6 and our XL radios all have a built-in SIM card slot. What means is you can get a SIM card from your provider, plug it in, and now your radio will have internet all the time. Won't need Wi-Fi. You'll be able to do CarPlay and be attached to the internet all at the same time, which is a big thing that people were asking us to do, so we made that happen. So these antennas here as well can be put underneath the plastic, keep them away from metal, but like every antenna, hear me this, every antenna, the less things in its way, the better reception you'll get. That's just the rule of thumb when it comes to antennas. So if you wanted to put this up on the windshield or up on the dash or something like that, just know you'll probably get better service. Don't know that you'll need it, but if you notice, hey man, I'm not getting very good service, maybe move your antennas out from behind the dash and put them on the window. That is for those 2. Now, Wi-Fi. Now let's say you're gonna tell me, hey, I'm gonna put a SIM card in so I don't need the Wi-Fi antenna. No, you do need the Wi-Fi antenna. You need the Wi-Fi antenna because CarPlay uses Wi-Fi. So if you don't plug in this antenna, then your CarPlay is actually never gonna connect, or if it does, it's gonna be spotty and it's gonna be hit and miss. So even if you're not planning on using Wi-Fi, you're still gonna wanna make sure you plug this antenna in. The rule of thumb on this one is the exact same as the others. You can put it in underneath the plastic, try and keep it away from the metal. If you feel like you're not getting good reception via CarPlay or Wi-Fi, you can go ahead and pull that out of behind the dash and put it somewhere up on the windshield. Here's our red USB. So this guy here is going to give us one just auxiliary USB, and then you can see here it's got an adapter plug that's going to plug into the factory so that we can retain the factory USB, as I mentioned. So that's going to be our red plug, USB 1 and USB 2, and then dropping stuff. So now we've got our red CAN box. This right here is how we talk to your car. So this is how we know when your key's on. This is how we know when the steering wheel controls are being moved, climate controls and all that stuff. So you have to make sure you plug this in. There will be plugs on the main power harness for this to get plugged into. And then we got one more plug here. Oh, that's the second red one. Let me explain that one for you. So just as there's 2 different power plugs, there's going to be 2 different USBs. So pay attention to whatever your factory USB is. It may be this one, it may be that one. So same thing as the power plug. So you won't use both red ones. You won't use both power plugs. You'll use one or the other. And then we should have a USB 3. Oh wait, no, you know what? I got way more plugs, guys. Way more plugs than I told you about. Sorry about that. So we've got a FM antenna adapter. So depending again which truck you have, what year you have will depend on whether you need the antenna adapter, but it'll plug in just like that. There will be a matching blue wire for you on the main power harness to be able to keep the power antenna working. and then that plugs in. And then we've got our camera input. So our radios will come factory with 3 camera inputs. You'll have the input for rear, an input for front, and an input for a side. That's gonna be this plug here. Depending on if you've got the factory camera, you should have on the main power harness, you should see some RCAs coming off of there. One of them will be marked factory camera, and that's gonna plug into the factory cam input here on this. So our RCA from our main power harness will go from that male to this female, and then that'll retain your reverse camera. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much all of the plugs. I showed you how to pop off your 2 switches. So if you're running with 4-wheel drive and you're running with push start, make sure you get those out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get our microphone ran, and I'm gonna go ahead and put our switches into our dash bezel, get everything all plugged in, and then I'll snap it in and I'll show you with the last little bits of the things to do to install it. We'll power it on, we'll talk about programming the climate, and then we'll be done, man. It's that quick and easy, and then you will see the most beautiful screen to ever meet the dash of a Toyota Tacoma. Cool? Sweet, let's do this. All right, guys, so we got everything all ran and ready to get plugged in. You can see I've got my switches flipped over to our new bezel, and new for the Generation 6. We're equipping you with our clips, so you no longer have to take the clips off your old radio. There you go, Merry Christmas. But a couple things on the backside here. Depending on which climate control you have will change what's here. So if you've got the auto climate like we have on this truck, you won't have this plug, so don't be afraid that you can't find that plug anywhere because you don't have it. If you do have it, make sure you do plug it in because you're gonna need to do both. And then just a couple things. If you had the auto, I mentioned how there was that extra white plug. That's gonna go onto the other side of the CAN box. You wanna make sure you have both sides of the CAN box plugged in if you had auto AC. And you're gonna do your best to make sure your climate control plug is below down here while the rest of your radio stuff is up top. And yeah, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab the radio. I'm gonna get the air vents popped out because I gotta pop the air vents out of that dash bezel. I forgot to remind you about that. So right here, we're gonna pop these air vents out of here, put them into our dash bezel, and then I'm gonna go ahead and plug everything in, snap it down, and then I'll show you one thing that is important to us is complete development. So with that, we understand Tacoma guys are Tacoma guys, and they're gonna drive their Tacoma like a Tacoma can be driven. That's a tongue twister for you. You wanna try that later. What that means is we are not just gonna live by snaps. We've got 2 bolts that will actually go back in and use those factory brackets in the backside there, so we'll talk about that. So not only is your radio gonna be snapped in there looking pretty, but it's gonna be secure, so when you take your Tacoma out there and have some fun, you don't have to worry about the dash falling out. So let me get these air vents out, get them in our dash, snap it together, put it in, plug it in, and we'll talk about mounting, power it on, and we'll go from there. Sound good? Let's do it. And just like that, guys, it is in. So I mentioned about making sure it's secure. So you should have 2 of these nice long black hex head bolts. You should see the 2 spots here on the face of the dash. You're gonna slide those in. Start slow just so you don't cross thread, but they should line up perfectly, no problem, into those factory mounts back there that had the factory radio in it. Cinch them down. You don't wanna get too tight because you'll snap things, so just get it so it's nice and snug. Just like that. We'll snug both sides, and then it's set and it's mounted and it's ready to rock and roll. All we got to do now is turn it on, look at the beautifulness that is 13 inches of screen, and set up the climate control. So what do you say we do that? Oh, there it is. Oh, it's beautiful. Yes, it is. So there it is. real quick, super easy thing to do. Once you get it all installed, you're gonna wanna make sure you tell the radio what you had as far as climate controls. So simple process, we're gonna select settings. From settings, we're gonna hit system. From system, settings guide, and then you can see it says car model AC. We're gonna select that. It's gonna kick us over to this third page. And now you can see we have an option for Toyota, Toyota Tacoma, and then we have a high or low. Low means you had single zone climate, so you're the one that used the small plug that was manual. High obviously means high end. There you go, you've got the auto. We're gonna go ahead and hit high. It's gonna say, do you wanna change it? We're gonna say yes. It's gonna reboot, and when it reboots, everything's gonna work. Climate controls will be on the screen, your backup camera, all of it right there. Steering wheel controls, everything's already set, preset, gonna work. It's gonna power back on, and that is that. There you go, guys. That is how you put a 13-inch screen in your 2016 to 2023 Toyota Tacoma. Hope you guys liked it. Pre-orders start today, so get you one. Find one of our authorized dealers. You can get that on our website. If you got any questions, hit a comment, give a like, subscribe, all those good things, and we'll see you next time.